That Tuesday, I got home way earlier than usual. A storm had knocked out power lines near the freight yard, so dispatch called it a day. I figured Mallory would be thrilled to have dinner together for once, maybe even surprised. But when I stepped through the front door, the house was dim. The only light came from the living room, where she was curled up on the couch, face glowing from her phone screen. At first, I didn't think much of it. She looked locked into whatever she was typing, thumbs flying, posture tense. But as I crossed the room to drop my keys on the counter, the screen lit up with a message. Caught it. I wish I hadn't. Thanks for last night. You were amazing. Can't stop thinking about it. I didn't recognize the name. Just some first name, Chris, maybe? Craig? It didn't matter. Mallory noticed me a second too late. She clicked the screen off and locked her phone like it was muscle memory. Then she laughed, that weird fake laugh she uses when she's cornered. Oh my God. That's just Caleb from work. He always jokes around like that after team events. Total idiot. He's married, like, with 4 kids. She looked right at me, waiting for my reaction. Cool. Collected. Like she'd done this before. Like the script was rehearsed. I didn't say anything. Just nodded and went to the kitchen. Later that night, she cornered me in the hallway. Told me she was getting tired of my constant suspicion and how it was draining her energy. That if I didn't trust her, this wouldn't work. The thing is, I hadn't said a word. But maybe that silence told her everything. I'd seen enough. I didn't know the full picture yet, but a corner of the curtain had lifted, and I wasn't about to let it fall back down. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, on my back, staring at the cracks in the ceiling that I'd been meaning to patch for months. Mallory was next to me, breathing evenly, back turned, as if nothing had happened. As if that message hadn't thrown my world off its axis. I didn't ask her any more questions. There was no fight, no confrontation. But my mind wouldn't quit. Instead, it started replaying things. Little signs I'd brushed off or explained away over the past few months. At the time, I chalked it up to stress, to us being busy, to whatever excuse seemed less painful than the truth. But now it all felt different. Like every detail I had ignored was part of a map I hadn't realized I was following. Mallory had started waking up early on Sundays. Always before me. I used to tease her about sleeping in, about how she could never function without coffee first. But then, almost overnight, she became this morning person. Showered, dressed, and out the door before I even had time to say good morning. She said it was networking brunches with her department. Every Sunday. I didn't think much of it. I wanted to believe her. But now I remembered the subtle shift in her wardrobe. She used to live in soft joggers and oversized hoodies, comfort over everything. Then came the heels, tight skirts, new perfume that didn't smell like anything she'd ever worn around me. I thought maybe she just felt like updating her look. Who was I to question that? Except it wasn't just that. She started locking her phone, like really locking it. Mallory used to leave it face up on the kitchen counter while she cooked. If I texted her while she was in the shower, I'd just read it aloud. Your mom says hi, or Amazon says the package is delayed again. No big deal. Now, that thing was glued to her like an extra limb. It went with her into the bathroom. It stayed under her pillow at night. Even the damn notifications were hidden. The int asterisk Macy started to vanish too. Not just physical, though that, of course, had changed, but the simple stuff. The way she used to reach for my hand without thinking, or kiss me on the cheek while I was brushing my teeth. It all slowed, then stopped. And when I tried to initiate anything, conversation, touch, a moment to connect, she'd tense up like I was asking for too much. I asked her once, "Is something going on?" She laughed. "You're being dramatic," she said. "I'm just tired." But her eyes didn't match the words. The distance started around the same time I took the pay cut. My trucking route got moved, longer hours, fewer bonuses. I'd worked that job for almost a decade, and I never once complained when things got tough. I picked up shifts when her dad was sick. I worked weekends when she went back to school. I kept us afloat. But now that I made a little less, I couldn't help but notice how her respect began to shift. Mallory used to call me her rock. Now, she barely looked at me when I talked about work. I remember one night, I came home sore and wiped out from a 13-hour shift. Told her how dispatch had doubled my route and how my back was *ling me. She barely looked up from her laptop. Just said, "Might be time to start thinking long-term." That was it. No back rub, no "I'm sorry babe," no connection. Just distance. It started sinking in that maybe I wasn't just being paranoid. That maybe my instincts were trying to tell me something. That maybe that message, "Thanks for last night. You were amazing," wasn't the beginning. It was just the first time I had seen it with my own eyes. And the more I looked, the more things clicked. She started going on work trips. Not long ones, just one-night stays in nearby cities. She said her company was expanding and she was being considered for a regional management role. I remember being proud of her. I told my buddies at work, even bought her a new laptop bag as a little good luck gift. She barely said thank you. I looked at that bag the other day. It's still by the door. Barely used. And when she got back from those trips, she was different. Not just tired, but colder. Like she had been living another life and mine didn't quite fit anymore. She stopped asking me about my day. Conversations became transactional: what bills were due, what groceries we needed, what time I'd be home. Nothing real. Nothing personal. I started wondering if I had been imagining things all along. Gaslighting myself in a way. Trying to be the good man who doesn't snoop, doesn't accuse, doesn't blow up over things he can't prove. But damn, it was getting hard to ignore. The tipping point came the next morning. She left for work early. Said she had a client call. I waited 5 minutes after the front door shut, then checked the trash can in the bathroom. I know how that sounds. But I had to know. Inside, I found the receipt from a boutique hotel. Dated 2 Sundays ago. A brunch receipt for 2, room number highlighted. I sat there, gripping the edge of the sink, staring at that little printed slip like it had the power to knock the wind out of me. And it did. It wasn't some mistake. It wasn't Caleb from work with his jokes. It was happening. She was stepping out on me. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. I didn't even feel heartbreak. I just felt numb. Numb and incredibly stupid. I placed the receipt back in the trash exactly how I found it and closed the lid. Then I walked out the front door, keys in hand, like I was just heading to the store. But I wasn't going anywhere. I sat in the truck and stared at our front porch for what felt like an hour. Thinking. Planning. Wondering how long it had been going on. Who he was. Whether it mattered. Whether I still mattered to her at all. A part of me wanted to scream. A bigger part of me wanted to do absolutely nothing. Just vanish. Just let it go. But I knew I couldn't. Not now. Not after that message. Not after all the mornings she left wearing perfume that wasn't for me. I didn't say anything that night. I made dinner. We ate in silence. She scrolled through her phone like she had somewhere better to be. I asked her if her day was okay. She said fine. Then she asked me if I could do the dishes. And I did them. But while the sink filled up and I scrubbed off the remnants of a dinner neither of us really tasted, I made a promise to myself. I would find out everything. I'd get answers without begging, without shouting, without asking permission. I wasn't going to lose my mind chasing whispers. I was going to catch her in daylight. And when I did, I wouldn't ask why. I'd just show her that I already knew. A week later, Mallory told me she had a company retreat. Leadership weekend, she called it, like the name alone gave it gravity. Said it was a requirement if she wanted to be considered for promotion. She packed 2 dresses, 3 pairs of heels, and a silk robe she hadn't worn since her honeymoon. Funny how ambition brings out the lingerie. I didn't question her. I didn't need to. I just nodded, helped zip up her suitcase, and asked if she needed gas money. She smiled, kissed me lightly on the cheek, like a stranger you're trying to be polite to, and said she'd be back Sunday night. She thought she was leaving me behind. But I'd already made plans of my own. I waited an hour after she left. Just enough time to not seem desperate, to not tip my hand. Then I got in my truck and headed toward the hotel I already knew she'd be staying at. I wasn't guessing. I'd gone through her email 2 nights before, not by snooping, but by muscle memory. She'd left her laptop open. The hotel confirmation was right there, with a line item for early check-in requested. I parked across the street, a corner spot that gave me a clear view of the lobby and front entrance. Engine off. Hoodie up. Phone fully charged. I waited. No music, no podcasts. Just silence and the low buzz of my own thoughts. For a while, nothing happened. I started to second-guess myself. Maybe she really was here for work. Maybe I had finally lost it. Then, around dusk, I saw her. Mallory walked through the glass doors like she owned the place. Her hair was curled, makeup done with the kind of precision she used to reserve for anniversaries. She wore an emerald green dress I didn't recognize, cut low and tight. Not exactly corporate retreat material. But she wasn't alone. A man followed her out onto the hotel's outdoor terrace. He was tall, dressed sharp, no wedding ring. They stood at the railing for a minute, talking close. Too close. Then he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. They laughed, said something I couldn't hear, and leaned into each other. And then, like a punchline to a joke I didn't find funny, they kissed. It wasn't new. It wasn't awkward or clumsy. This was practiced. Comfortable. Like they'd done it before. Like it was routine. I took out my phone, hands steady, and started filming. Slow, wide-panning *TS. Then a close-up catching their hands, her smile, his lips on her neck. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just kept the camera focused and recorded every second. Proof. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run over, grab him by the collar, and ask if he knew she was married. If he knew the kind of woman she was. But I didn't. I stayed where I was, a quiet shadow across the street. Because this moment wasn't about rage. It was about truth. I watched until they disappeared inside again. Then I waited another hour, just in case. Just to make sure there wasn't some corporate name tag waiting to be pinned on. There wasn't. I drove home with the footage on my phone and a silence in my chest that felt permanent. The kind that doesn't ask for answers anymore. Just closure. The house was dark when I returned. I sat at the kitchen table and played the video back 3 times. I made copies, cloud backup, USB, email to myself with no subject line. I wasn't going to let this disappear. I wasn't going to let her call it a misunderstanding. She'd been treating me like a fool for months. But now I had something she couldn't spin. Something she couldn't rewrite with charm or tears or half-truths. The next morning I called a friend of mine, Eli. He works freelance in event logistics. Lighting, AV setup, promotional materials. Mallory's company was holding a contract celebration the following evening. One of those milestone mixers with champagne and media reps and oversized checks for photo ops. I asked him a simple question, could he get some envelopes onto the tables? He didn't even ask why. Just said, sure thing, man. Email me the details. I sent him a single photo, still framed from the footage. Mallory and her mystery man mid-kiss, framed in warm terrace lighting like it was a stock image for betrayal. No words. No explanation. Just the image. Eli printed 20 copies. Slipped them into plain white envelopes. No names. No labels. Just placed one on each table before the guests arrived. That night, I didn't attend. I didn't need to. I waited. And within 15 minutes, the fallout started. Phones buzzed. Heads turned. People whispered and passed envelopes like they were holding live grenades. Coworkers got up. Executives frowned. Mallory tried to play it off, smiling, sipping champagne, making jokes. But her face betrayed her. Eyes darting, smile stiff. She looked like a woman walking a plank she hadn't realized she was standing on. I got a text from Eli an hour later, dude. It worked. She's losing it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. When Mallory came home late that night, the house was dark again. She walked in like she'd just run a marathon, heels in hand, mascara smudged. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, watching the front door. She froze when she saw me. Josh, she started. But I stood up and walked right past her. Didn't say a word. I wasn't looking for confrontation. I was done listening to her edit the truth. In bed, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Whispering to someone on the phone. Maybe her mom. Maybe him. Didn't matter. She'd worn the mask for so long she thought she could control how it slipped. But I had torn it off in front of everyone who mattered to her. No yelling. No drama. Just the photo. Let the silence explain everything. The next day, Mallory called out of work. She stayed in bed most of the day. The day after that, she packed a bag and left without a word. Just a note on the counter. I need space. I'll be at my mom's for a while. No apology. No admission. Just space. I didn't chase her. I canceled her access to our joint bank account. Froze the card I'd given her for emergencies. Cut off the auto payments on her subscriptions. I wasn't trying to be cruel, I just didn't see the point in funding someone who saw me as disposable. And that's when things changed. The silence that once filled our house turned into peace. Stillness. It was weird, but comforting. Like coming up for air after not realizing you were drowning. She called me that night. I didn't pick up. Then she texted. Can we talk? Please. I'm so sorry. I stared at the screen, wondering how many times she had said the same thing to him. How many times she had begged for attention using someone else's body. The texts kept coming. I made a mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. I miss you. The same phone she used to hide from me was now a lifeline. I didn't reply, because for once I held the power, and I wasn't about to hand it back. The next few days were quiet. Almost too quiet. Mallory stayed at her mom's place on the other side of town. I knew because she finally texted me her location after 3 straight days of silence from me. Like she wanted to prove she wasn't with him. Funny. That used to mean something. At first, I thought the quiet would help. That maybe I'd feel relief once the mask came off, once her image cracked and crumbled in front of everyone she'd been trying to impress. But the truth is, it left behind a strange void. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't heartbroken. I was just watching her unravel. It started slowly. A few awkward updates from mutual friends. Hey man, I heard what happened at the event, crazy stuff. A text from her sister Liz, who I'd always liked. I don't know what she was thinking. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Then it snowballed. Her work photos disappeared from LinkedIn. Her email signature changed. Regional sales coordinator quietly became team lead East. I didn't need to be an insider to know that meant a demotion. Her social media presence, normally this curated highlight reel of power brunches, rooftop meetings, and polished professionalism, went dark. No new posts. No stories. Just silence. Meanwhile, I was waking up earlier. Drinking my coffee slower. I started fixing things around the house again. Nothing major. Just stuff I'd neglected while trying to keep our relationship from falling apart. The door to the laundry room that never shut right? Fixed. The loose railing on the front steps? Sanded and sealed. It was like I was putting my own life back together while hers was starting to collapse. Then, out of nowhere, she asked to meet. Not through a long apology or a dramatic monologue. Just a short message, can we talk? Not over text. I told her to come by Saturday afternoon. She showed up exactly on time. No makeup, jeans, hoodie I didn't recognize. Hair in a ponytail like she didn't want to be seen. She looked tired. Not just physically, but deep down worn out, like someone who hadn't been sleeping, who hadn't stopped thinking about the night everything cracked wide open. I let her in. Didn't say much. Just walked to the kitchen and poured her a glass of water like she was a guest, not the woman I'd shared my life with. She sat at the counter, fingers tapping the glass like she didn't know what to do with her hands. I deserved it, she said finally. I didn't respond. That night, at the event. I kept waiting for someone to tell me it was a mistake. That it wasn't what it looked like. She paused. Her voice cracked a little. But no one said anything. They just looked at me. Like I was toxic. Still, I said nothing. She didn't need comfort. Not now. She looked down, swallowed hard. The guy from the hotel, his name's Chase. He's not who I thought he was. I finally spoke. Isn't that what they always say? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I'm not trying to get back with him, she said. It wasn't even a relationship. Just attention. Validation. I don't know. I waited. Let the silence stretch. I thought I could have both, she said. The safe love and the exciting one. I didn't realize until I lost both that neither meant anything without trust. You didn't lose me, I said. You gave me away. She blinked at that. I could see the realization hit her in waves. I don't know who I am anymore, she whispered. I thought I had it all figured out. Do you want me to feel sorry for you? I asked, not angry, just curious. No, she said quickly. God, no. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see what I did. I see how far I spiraled trying to feel important. I nodded once. You do look different. She glanced up. What do you mean? You used to walk into a room like you had nothing to prove, I said. Now you look like someone who lost everything trying to prove something. She looked away. I guess I did. For a few minutes we sat in silence. No yelling. No begging. Just the quiet space between two people who'd seen too much of each other's worst. Then she said something I didn't expect. I want to come home. I let that hang in the air. Felt the weight of it. But I'll sleep in the guest room. I won't touch your accounts. I'll follow whatever rules you set. I just want to be near you. Even if it's as a reminder of what I lost. It took me a while to answer. Why? I finally asked. Why put yourself through that? Because I need to live with it, she said. Not hide from it. Not run to someone who doesn't know the worst parts of me. I need to sit in what I did. And maybe earn back a little bit of the peace I threw away. I looked at her and saw something I hadn't seen in months, surrender. Not performance. Not manipulation. Just quiet regret. All right, I said. Guest room. No finances. No assumptions. You're a tenant now, not a partner. She nodded. Thank you. I'm not forgiving you, I added. You're not coming back into my life. You're just staying in the house. I understand. And weirdly, I think she did. The next day, she moved back in. 2 suitcases. No fanfare. No Instagram updates. She kept her head down, did her laundry, cooked her own meals. She didn't ask about my day. She didn't initiate conversation. It was like she finally understood that her access to me was gone. She started therapy the following week. I didn't push her. She just left a card on the fridge, Monday at 2 p.m., Dr. Langley. After a few sessions, she started leaving her phone out again. Not like before, not casually, but deliberately. Like she was trying to prove she had nothing to hide. She didn't ask for affection. Didn't try to recreate old habits. She just existed. Quiet. Present. Uncomfortable in her own skin and not asking for anyone to rescue her from it. And I watched. Not because I wanted her back. Not because I wanted her to suffer. But because I needed to see who she really was without the mask. Without the performance. Without the need to be admired. And for the first time in a long time, I saw her as a person. Flawed. Small. Not powerful. Not manipulative. Just broken. Maybe even honest. But that didn't mean I trusted her. That would take more than silence and therapy appointments and uncomfortable truths whispered across a counter. That would take time. Distance. And maybe something she'd never be able to give again. Consistency. I don't think she expected me to actually follow through with it. The guest room arrangement? Sure. The therapy sessions? She could manage that. Living quietly under the same roof without pretending things were fine? A challenge, but not impossible. But when I cut off her access to everything, money, insurance, her car, that was the moment Mallory realized I wasn't just hurt. I was finished playing her game. It started with the bank accounts. I went in person, handed over my ID, and signed the paperwork that revoked her access. No more shared funds. No more emergency debit card. I left her with nothing but what she brought back into the house. I didn't tell her right away. I waited until the first denial hit. It happened on a Tuesday morning. She came into the kitchen in sweats, her hair tied up, clutching her phone like it had betrayed her. Hey, she said, tone too casual. Did you get a new card or something? I think mine's acting up. Nope, I replied, sipping my coffee. I canceled your access. She blinked. What? To the account. You're not on it anymore. The silence after that was deafening. I just needed groceries, she stammered. I wasn't trying to do anything shady. I didn't realize it. You don't need to realize, I said. You're not entitled to anything in my name. Her mouth opened like she was going to argue. Then it closed again. She nodded and walked out of the room. I heard the door to the guest room click shut a second later. That was the first break. By Thursday, she came to me with a request. Can I borrow $30? She asked quietly. I just need gas and maybe some soup or something. I've been feeling off. I looked her dead in the eye. No. She wasn't used to hearing that from me. For years, I'd said yes to everything. Covered expenses, treated her to spa days, gave her breathing room while she switched jobs or chased new ventures. Now she was realizing what breathing room cost. Later that night, I found her at the kitchen table with a spiral notebook and a laptop she hadn't touched in months. She was scribbling numbers, logging into sites, probably checking balances on old accounts she'd neglected. She didn't see me watching from the hallway. I remember the way she exhaled, shaky, like someone just realizing their safety net had vanished. The next day, the spiral truly began. She started texting more frequently. Hey, I know you're upset, but can we talk? I need to explain some things I never said. I'm not asking for another chance. I just need to feel like I'm not totally invisible. Then the calls started. First thing in the morning. Lunchtime. Right before bed. Her number popped up constantly even though we lived under the same roof. When I didn't answer, she left voicemails. Most of them started the same way. I know I don't deserve a response, but... One night, after 2 days of silence from me, she knocked on the door of my bedroom. Just a soft, hesitant knock. Josh? Can I come in for a sec? I didn't say anything. She stood outside the door for maybe 30 seconds before walking away. The next morning, she left an envelope on the kitchen table. No note. Just $35 in cash. I didn't touch it. When I came home that evening, it was gone. Something shifted after that. Like she finally understood the depth of what she'd lost. She stopped texting. Stopped calling. Stopped trying to make eye contact at all. Just moved through the house like a ghost, tiptoeing around my presence, shrinking into the background. It wasn't guilt anymore, it was fear. Fear that this was her new reality. That the man she once took for granted had closed the door and wasn't going to open it just because she cried on the other side. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt powerful. But mostly, I felt clear. This wasn't revenge. It was necessary. Because everything about our relationship had revolved around me filling in the cracks, financially, emotionally, logistically. When she forgot to pay bills, I covered it. When she felt lost, I grounded her. When she wanted more out of life, I gave up pieces of mine so she could chase hers. Now she was standing on her own. And she was struggling. A week later, she tried something different. "I've been thinking about getting a part-time job," she said one morning, her voice cautious. "Something small. Just to have some independence." I nodded. "Good idea." She blinked. Maybe she expected me to argue. To offer help. To say it wasn't necessary. But I didn't. Later that week, she walked in with a name tag from a local co-op grocery. She didn't say much. Just put it on the kitchen counter and disappeared into the guest room. I knew she wanted me to ask about it. To acknowledge the effort. But I didn't. Because this wasn't about applause. This was about her earning her way back to basic respect. About 2 weeks after she started working, I came home to find dinner on the stove. Not takeout. Not microwave food. Real food. Pasta, roasted vegetables, salad on the side. There was a sticky note on the counter. "For you." No strings. I ate it. Quietly. And I didn't leave a thank you note. But I didn't throw it away either. The following day, she cleaned the bathroom without being asked. Washed the towels. Took out the trash. Not because it was her job, but because she had started seeing herself as someone who lived here, not someone entitled to it. That night, I caught her sitting on the back steps, hoodie on, staring out at the fence line. She didn't hear me come out. I stood there for a moment, watching her posture, shoulders down, arms around her knees. Then, without looking at me, she spoke. "I miss who I used to be. Before all this. Before I let myself get so selfish." I said nothing. She continued. "You didn't just stop loving me. I gave you every reason to. And I don't know how to fix that. Or if I can." Still, I said nothing. Because this wasn't a movie. There wasn't a speech that would fix it. There wasn't a hug that would reset the trust she burned down. But there was something in her voice I hadn't heard before. Not desperation. Not manipulation. Surrender. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. She'd started opening the co-op 3 days a week. I found a mug of coffee sitting on the counter. Not steaming, but still warm. And a single line written on a napkin. "Thank you for letting me stay." That was it. No ask. No apology. Just gratitude. And weirdly, that hit harder than any of the tearful voicemails or awkward conversations. Because it meant she was finally starting to get it. This wasn't about me punishing her. It was about her understanding what it feels like to be without me, not in theory, not in fear, but in reality. I wasn't just some provider she could lean on. I was a person. And she'd finally stopped treating me like a given. When Mallory returned, it wasn't as a wife, it was as a guest. I made that clear. She stayed in the guest room. Her schedule, her phone, her whereabouts, I required total transparency. No passwords, no vague explanations. If she wanted to exist under my roof, she followed my rules. She agreed without argument. She didn't try to play the victim or reclaim affection. She was quiet. Obedient. For once, I didn't see manipulation in her eyes, just fatigue. Therapy became routine. She showed me her check-ins, her notes. She mentioned breakthroughs but never asked me to listen. It wasn't for me. It was for her. I kept my distance. She'd once begged for closeness. Now, even a glance from me felt like a reward. I wasn't cruel, I was indifferent. I watched her as one might observe an old painting, faded and cracked. Interesting but no longer moving point. 2 months passed. One night, she left a manila envelope on the table. Inside were divorce papers already signed. She didn't say a word about them. Just waited. I didn't sign. Instead, I burned them in the fireplace. She watched silently. Confused, maybe? But I didn't do it out of forgiveness. I did it to take back control. She no longer dictated how our story would end. If she wanted to stay, she would earn every inch of it. Not through tears or chores or therapy. Through patience. Through humility. Through the slow, grinding work of rebuilding trust she tore down. This wasn't a reconciliation. It was a reset of power. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to prove my worth to her. She would prove hers to me, if she could. And if not, I'd already started building a life without her. One that didn't rely on promises but on truth. My terms. My pace. My story.